morning on this very chilly morning. My name is Yalily Smith. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I welcome you to Between My Therapist and I. Today, we're going to continue the theme of relationships among adolescents and adults on our mental health tips of the week. I figured I'm just going to go, we're a little bit behind on our schedule, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump in and just do a quick review of relationships. This time, we're not going to be talking about strangers on the internet. We're not going to be talking about family members in general. We're actually going to be talking about the relationships between you as an adolescent, 11, 12 to 18 years old, 16, 17, 18 years old, just that final span of time right before you become an adult or you get called an adult. So we're going to be talking about mom and dad. We're going to be talking about those relationships. And then I'm going to give you 5 tips on how you can essentially flourish and just still be the very best version of yourself as possible, regardless of what kind of relationship you have with your parents. One of the reasons why I brought up this particular point is because one of the most talked about topics that I have with the adolescents that I work with the teens that I work with, is, just not seeing eye to eye with their parents. It's, you are in an age where your world is basically getting a lot bigger, and you're starting to realize a lot more things that maybe you didn't realize when you were a little kid. So when you're a little kid, and obviously I was a child too, like when we're kids, when we're small, our world is very small. It's typically, our entire world typically revolves around maybe your daycare or your school and your little school friends. And I mean by little school friends, I mean because they're literally small, just like you, mom and dad. And if there's any third party person like grandparents, aunts, uncles, but you're not really exposed as much to other families, other relationships, other parents. You don't witness as much of those kinds of interactions. Your world is basically, you wake up in the morning, there's mom and dad or whoever's taking care of you. You go to school, that teacher and your little friend group, and then you get picked up, you come back home, maybe a couple times a year you go to a birthday party, but that and where you see other parents and other kids, but that's about the extent of what your exposure might be. So our examples, the way we see the world, the way we understand relationships, a lot of them are based on our very small worldview. So now come to this age, come to where you're like in your teen years, your worldview is starting to get wider, and you have access to social media, you have access to movies and TV shows, you have more friends, maybe you go visit with those friends and see their houses, you've maybe traveled to other families' houses, things like that. And so your worldview has started to expand more and more. So while before mom and dad or whoever was your caregiver seemed like the only option and the only way to parent was their way, now you might be starting to realize, wow, these people aren't really as great as they make themselves out to be. And the truth is, this is one of the hardest conversations I have with the teens that I work with, is that, mom and dad were people before they became mom and dad. And they were children themselves. And they were probably a product of their own difficult parenting, maybe unhealthy parenting, maybe toxic parenting. And so most of the time you're gonna pretty much get what they got. If they were raised in a household where there wasn't a lot of attention, where there wasn't a lot of love, where the expectation was do as I say, not as I do, where maybe the kids weren't really expected to participate in the household rules or making decisions or sharing their thoughts and their feelings about things, that's probably what you're going to get. And the reason for that is because unless a person consciously makes an effort to break generational patterns, that's what you get, is a pattern. You will see very similar things on your parents as their parents did. Maybe painted a little bit differently, but if you pay attention, you're going to see the similarities. If your parents were raised in a household where there was a lot of yelling, you might be raised in a household where there was a lot of yelling. Or maybe even worse than that. Or it might be something like you're being raised in a household where there's a lot of detachment, emotional detachment, because your parents are trying so hard, because they were raised in a house where there was a lot of yelling. So they're trying so hard not to be their own parents that they actually don't do anything at all. They just avoid conflict so much that if you show any emotion at all, then you get sent to your room. So what does it mean when you start to realize, mom and dad are not perfect, mom and dad are people? It means that you're also going to start questioning a lot of their decisions. You're also going to start questioning a lot of just how you act with them. Like, do they deserve your respect? Do they deserve for you to listen to them? Maybe they might seem hypocritical to you. And so you're going to find yourself in a really tough place, because it kind of becomes this power struggle of like, well, I see you more and more for who you are, and you're not fitting into what I think a mom and a dad should be like. You're not giving me what I think I deserve or what I think I need. And they're thinking, I am the person who has the authority here. I'm the person who is supposed to be guiding you. And however I can guide you, I will guide you. It may be good, it may be bad, it may be indifferent, but I'm doing the best I can. And so you should be appreciating that I'm doing the best I can. And so there's going to be that power struggle, because you want more, but what they can give you is just good enough, So the first thing, and so here we're going to jump right into the tips. The first tip that I am going to give you is sit down with your feelings. Just take a moment, put everything away, put the social media away, put the phones, games, computer, everything. Just put everything away for a minute. Sit down with yourself, just 1 minute, and think about how you feel towards your parents, how you feel about your parents. And think about, are the things that I want my parents to be like? Are the expectations that I have for my parents? Are the things that I'm looking for in my parents realistic? Is it something that this person can do for me? Have I seen them do it before? Do I see them do it on a regular basis? Or is it something that I wish they did, I hoped they did, but I can't actually say they have the capacity to do? And I'll give you an example. Let's say that you wish that dad was a little bit more emotionally available. You wish that he would come into your room and maybe talk to you, maybe hug you if you cried, maybe said, just thoughtful things when you needed emotional support. But you don't, you occasionally see dad come and hug mom, give her a kiss, things like that. But you've never seen dad really sit down and have a heart-to-heart with anyone. And if it's done, it's usually because they're drunk, or usually because it's just such a rare situation. It's a funeral, or it's a wedding, or it's something just like really outlandish. But you're sitting there and you're expecting him to be emotionally available to you. But you've never really seen that consistently happen. Well, he's not the person that you should be going to for your emotional support. What is that good at? Like, what is his love language? How can he show you that he cares in a way that he's capable of? Because maybe you turn and you can see that mom is the person, or grandma is the person, or aunt is the person whose love language is quality time, or words of affirmation, or any of these things that show emotional support. And I know that you can say, well, if I'm looking at this in every possible way, you can say, well, that just gives that a free pass. It's not about free passes. Another thing that you need to realize is that when you have relationships with people, you have to be realistic about what their capability is in a relationship. You can't force a person to change to meet your needs. That's never going to happen. It's going to happen temporarily. It's going to be very fake. They're going to make an effort, but it's not going to happen for long. And you're going to continuously be disappointed. So you can say it's not fair. Dad should be more emotionally available. Yeah. In a perfect world, he would be. But this is not a perfect world. The truth is, as a man, as a person, that's not how he is. That's not something he knows how to do. So you going to him, setting that expectation on him, is just going to continue to disappoint you. And the truth is, he could be a really decent dad. He could be a decent person. But because you keep setting expectations that he's just going to fail over and over and over again, you're not really taking advantage of the things that he's really good at. And you're not really fostering a relationship with him because you're just refusing to see him for his good qualities and acknowledging that there's qualities that he just doesn't have. So that's the first thing, is stop. Consider the types of relationships that you have with these people. As people, think about what kind of a person they are. Are they open? Are they warm? Or are they more standoffish? Are they more the type of person that would give you literally the shirt off their back, but they'll never give you a hug? Think about them like that. More realistically, bring them down from the pedestal a little bit. Second tip is, you're at an age where you have such incredible advantages of social media and other technological advances. So you got a whole world of knowledge at your fingertips. Stop thinking that your parents or your guardians are going to know to show you everything that you need. The truth is, most of the time, parents don't know how to parent. They just don't. They're trying their best. They're mostly copying what they know. They have an idea of what they should be doing, but they don't always know how to go around it. So stop for a minute and think about, if I'm looking out for myself and I'm looking out for my future, because when I turn 19, I'm going to be out of this house and I'm going to be on my own. What do I need to know when I am on my own to be a responsible and successful adult? Well, look around. Look at the adults in your life. What do they do on an everyday basis? Look at the successful adults in your life. Or if you can't find any, go online, look for people that have their life together, but not in a fake kind of way, not in a plastic kind of way, but like you can genuinely see that what they talk, like they talk the talk and they walk the walk. Like you can see that when you find, when they talk to you, they get their life together. Watch, and some of the things that you might be looking for is, for example, is this person someone who is consistent, reliable, trustworthy? Are they people who make their money legally? Are they people who look out for others? Are they people who are genuinely respectable? Like respectable, I'm talking like, are they shady? Do they do things that, they're married, but they're cheating, but they go to church every Sunday. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not respectable. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like people who are not at the bar all the time, who are coming home to their wives, who got, who are loving to their kids, who you hang out with their kids and they actually like have that bond. So look for people that embody what you think a strong, reliable adult is, and start picking out what are the things that this person does that I find would make you a good adult. And then go to your parents, go to your guardians, and ask them about it. Ask them to sit down with you when they do their taxes. Ask them to sit down with you when they pay their bills. Ask them to talk to you about renting a place. How do you rent a place? What are you supposed to do? What are the steps? How do you pay your bill? How do you manage a bank account? How do you apply for things like credit cards? And, what's an interest rate? All these different things that when you turn 18, you're going to be expected not only to be capable of voting, which is the highest, most important thing that anyone can do in our society, but also you're going to be expected to be able to live on your own, have a means of being independent. So tip number 2 is all about, think about you. Think about, how do I find a way to ask for what I need? Who do I go to that would be the best person to teach me about these things that I'm going to need in just a few years, not that long. If you're 16 years old and you're watching this, you got 2 years left. That's the blink of an eye. So that's tip number 2. Okay. Tip number 3 is, remember that, again, back to relationships, the main focus of your life should be your self-improvement. It should be you and you're creating the person that you feel will be the ideal person, So what does that mean? That means that you should be trying your best now, right now. You should be trying your best to create habits in yourself, to do things for yourself that are going to set you up for a good future. And I'm talking like making sure that you're reading books that are going to set you up for the future. So like read books on finance. There's tons of books that are really entertaining, that are not boring, that are on finance. Read books on business, read books on different types of jobs, read books on money, or listen to them on Audible, whatever. But start paying attention on how your personal growth, start setting an alarm for yourself. Don't just expect mom and dad to be waking you up. You are old enough. If you know how to use a phone, you know how to set an alarm. Start doing for yourself. Start creating habits for yourself that are going to make a difference when you are grown. Because the more you depend on other people, the more you depend on mom and dad, the more you depend on your guardian, the worse it's going to be for you when you leave the home, because you're going to be useless. You're going to be so overwhelmed with everything, all the responsibility that's expected of you, that you're going to feel like you can't live like that. And it's going to make you really depressed. It's going to make you feel really hopeless, really helpless. And then you're going to turn around and blame mom and dad. But I promise you that you can do it yourself. So set your alarm, start setting an alarm, start coming up with some sort of a reading habit of some sort. Listen to it, read it, doesn't matter. Start coming up with habits like keeping your room tidy, cleaning up after yourself when you eat, doing your own laundry. If you don't know, learn, because you're going to need it. It doesn't matter who you are, boy, girl, anything in between. It doesn't matter. When you live alone, nobody cares about your gender. You still got to do laundry. So go help pick out groceries at the grocery store. Like, pay attention to how groceries are purchased. Why does the person doing the grocery pick this type of fruit versus that type of fruit, this type of juice versus that one, this type of milk versus that one? How do you bargain? How do you find prices? All these different things. Start paying attention to those things, because you're going to need it. When you're broke and in college, you're going to want to know these things. All right. Or not college. It doesn't matter. You're still going to be, when you're 18, you're going to be broke. Unless you're independently wealthy, you're going to be broke. So, okay. Number 4 is, as you are developing your relationships, let's say that now you've done the homework, you've sat down, you've kind of gotten a little bit more of a realistic expectation of your family, your parents, stuff like that. I know you want to continue to be a kid. I know that it's really nice to like come home, go into your room, watch TV, watch video games, things like that, and just kind of relax. Just be on, ignore the world, forget about things. But it's also important for you to foster relationships. So how do you not foster relationships? Locking yourself in your room. That's not fostering a relationship. So if you have the type of household, mind you, I'm going to be very specific about this. If you have the type of household where you feel safe, or you feel comfortable coming out of the room because there isn't like abuse happening, because that's a different story. If there's abuse happening, I can understand why you would want to hide. But if there isn't, if there's generally just like chatter and people in the kitchen, and maybe parents are like dads watching TV or helping out in the kitchen, mom's cleaning, doing this, that, the other, is just the general chatter of life. Come out and talk about just some of the things that we discussed just a minute ago. Talk about that stuff. Tax season's coming up. What's that about? Talk about politics. I know you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I have completely different beliefs than they do. That's fine. That's fine. If they're okay with going back and forth, that's a good conversation. Is two people that don't agree with each other sitting down and sharing ideas. Open yourself up for that. That's how you foster relationships, is give yourself a chance to open up just a little room. It doesn't have to, you can start with like 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, and then you can go back to your room. And if it was okay, then maybe you try 30 minutes or, things like that. Look for ways to connect. Don't just leave it up to them. Don't leave it up to them only. Because sometimes when we build walls, we don't just keep people out, we also keep ourselves in. And so they might want to connect, but they may see that closed door and think you don't want to connect. So think about it that way too. And then the final tip is, don't be afraid. Believe it or not, we are literally all just a bunch of kids that got old. None of us know how to do it right. None of us know how to do it perfect. None of us know how to have the perfect relationship. Your parents definitely didn't know how to be the perfect parents. I promise you they didn't. There's no such thing. No matter what kind of books you read, there's no perfect plan for parenting. There just isn't. And oftentimes people's trauma, like their childhood trauma, and trust me, there's a very good chance that there's trauma in your parents' life, just kind of affects a lot of the ways that they parent and the ways that they connect with you. And it's not an excuse. A reason is not an excuse. The person can have a reason for being the way they are. It doesn't mean that it makes it okay. It's not okay. You should have a better relationship. They should be trying harder. They should be trying to overcome, their trauma. But despite that, whether they're trying or they're not, the reality, the fact, the truth is that, they probably have it. They probably have some trauma in their past. There's probably reasons why they have a hard time connecting. And, they're not perfect, and you're not going to be perfect either. And that's okay. That's okay, because we're all just very imperfect beings trying to kind of flounder around, figure out how to be the best version of ourselves that we can. That's okay. It's fine. That's how it works. So my suggestion is just take a breath. Not every interaction, not every conversation, not every attempt is going to be perfect. Not every time you walk out of your room is going to be perfect. That's okay. Just know that you're trying for a reason and that it's worth it. It's worth it. Because when you get a little bit older, that relationship that you fostered with your parents is going to feel different. When you get older, you're going to see them different. You're going to feel things differently. You're going to know things in a way that maybe you don't understand right now. And it's going to hit different. So those are my 5 tips for relationships with parents and still being the best version of yourself that you can. And I hope that it helps. And I hope that you're encouraged to build on yourself and, work on yourself. You don't have to wait for anybody else. You got this. You're smart enough to figure it out. So have a great morning and stay warm. Bye.